Hello and welcome to the latest in NLET Asia's interview series. In this episode, I am joined by Peter Brown, New Zealand General Manager at PSC Power Systems Consultants. PSC work with utility-scale electricity generators, distributors and market operators around the world. Today we will discuss the Australian generation market's regulatory environment and explore compliance monitoring programs, a mandatory and yet often overlooked requirement for all generation assets in Australia. Peter, thank you very much for speaking with us today.
Thanks, Simon. I'm glad to be here.
First question for you is, what makes the regulatory environment in Australia so different to the rest of the world?
So, I suppose in Australia, people from outside Australia need help because it's developed quite a lot over time. Probably the key thing is that Australia is a long, skinny network. There's not much interconnection, unlike places in Europe and elsewhere. And so to protect the network and to stop it from having issues, they've had to beef up the regulations.
Okay. So the compliance we're talking about here is generators complying with their GPS. What is that?
So GPS stands for a Generator Performance Standard. So as you go through the connection process as a new generator, or maybe you're changing your current generator, you agree a generator performance standard with the transmission service provider, and that's how you're going to perform on the network. So you've got to show that you can comply to the conditions for your area and not affect other assets in that area.
Okay, and who are you finding is most affected by this?
Okay, so it affects all generators, but often it's new renewable generator entrants from overseas who are caught out. So we do a lot of work for existing incumbents, so companies like Snowy Hydro and others. But an offshore or a new investor, they might not be familiar with that regulatory landscape in Australia. We've got investors buying a turnkey facility that someone else has built, and they may not be aware of the ongoing obligations. And then I suppose the last one is an original equipment manufacturer from elsewhere in the world. They're building a machine or a generator of some kind, and they're just not familiar with those national energy rules in Australia. And as a result, they don't realise what information or other things they need to provide with that machine.
Okay. The Australian Energy Market Commission has a template for compliance monitoring programs. How far does that go towards meeting a generator's regulatory requirements?
Well, really, it's only a start. It gives some broad outlines and principles for your compliance plan, but it can start to get very complex, particularly depending on the type of generation or the complexity of the generation you're putting in. So as an example, a simple generator, a solar farm or something is probably reasonably straightforward, but if you combine a solar farm and a wind farm and a battery together, you get quite a complex system, and then you've got to work out your compliance plan for that grouped together generation, particularly if it's behind one connection point.
Okay. I've heard compliance plans being referred to as living documents. What do you mean by this?
Well, they need to be updated. You've got to keep up to date with what's going on. You need to be aware of potential changes from the compliance requirements. And as a result, you may have to change your compliance documents to be in line with those compliance requirements. So the AEMC can change the rules. Those rule changes are enforced by AEMO. And so you're often given times or amounts of time to complete changes to your compliance regime.
What sort of non-compliances need to be reported to the market operator AEMO?
Yeah, so that's sort of anything other than fixing or replacing a defective part. So any change that affects the operation of the plant could become a non-compliance. So by that I mean a control system upgrade. So if it's not a like-for-like replacement, you're changing the plant, it's potentially going to behave differently, so you need to report that through.
Okay.
That sort of thing.
So it's not the actual generation plant that needs to be compliant, is it? It's not just the actual generation plant, rather?
No, it's actually the whole plant. So everything that makes up that plant, all the components, can affect the way it performs.
Okay. I understand that a generator doesn't necessarily need to be seen to have done something wrong or to be under suspicion to be audited?
No. Like all things, when you involve auditors, The audit can be random,
Okay.
and it can be directed. So, a random audit, you may just get audited because they haven't talked to you before. On top of that, you may get audited because there's some issues in the network in your area. So it's not created by you, but there's something wrong within the network. And so the market operator is there to ensure everybody's complying with their GPS. And, we were involved in a situation recently where that audit occurred. We had to go through and assist the operator to develop some answers to questions and things. And it wasn't their issue, it was an issue within the area.
Okay. And in that example you just gave, how many questions were involved?
Hundreds. In fact, over 300 questions. From memory, probably 380 questions, technical questions, needed to be answered about the plant, the behaviour, and how it was going to operate.
Okay, so it's time-consuming. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so quite a significant package of work. And we were able to assist the client with that.
Okay. Peter, that actually brings me to the end of my questions, quite a short discussion around this. Thank you very much for joining me today. For those of you who are interested in finding out more, we have an article written by Peter entitled simply "What You Need to Know About Australia's Generator Compliance Obligations" on the NLIT Asia website. You can find a link to this below. And of course, you can always contact PSC directly. A link to their website can be found a link to their website can be found below this video. Peter, thank you very much once again for joining me.
You're welcome, Simon. Glad to be here, and it was good chat. Thank you.
Thank you.